Wards, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that you ever notice, how the second you finally stop calling, stop checking, stop chasing, suddenly that man starts to panic, starts wondering what you're doing. Wards, who you doing it with, and why you not doing it with him no more, because that's what detachment does. Baby, it flips the whole script. It turns the power back in your favor. Wards. It's like you just switched the remote control and now he can't change the channel without you. Detachment ain't about pretending, it's about protecting. It's the moment when you say to yourself, Wards, I'm not going to beg for attention. I'm not going to fight for space in somebody's life who acts like I'm an option. Wards, I'm not going to lose sleep while somebody else is out here sleeping peacefully after breaking me. You start to realize your peace is more expensive than any apology he never gave. Wards, and your silence is louder than any text you could ever send. See, when you detach, you stop moving from desperation and start moving from dignity. You stop asking why he doesn't love you the way you loved him. Wards. And you start asking why you kept lowering yourself for somebody who couldn't even meet you halfway. That's when he starts to feel it, that quiet storm, that energy shift, that invisible pressure that says, oh, she's not chasing me no more. It hits different when the woman who used to text paragraphs now just posts a smile. It hits deeper when the woman who cried herself to sleep is now sleeping fine without him. Wards. Detachment ain't cold, it's clarity. It's when your heart finally decides it's tired of renting itself out to people who don't know how to stay. Wards. You stop trying to convince him of your worth because your worth was never his to define. You begin to see that love that needs constant proof ain't love, it's performance. Wards. And you were never meant to perform for somebody who can't even applaud you. Detachment teaches you to breathe again, to laugh again, to eat your favorite food without checking your phone. Wards. To go places you love without wondering if he'd approve. It's like your soul finally exhales and says, thank you for choosing me this time. Now, here's the thing about detachment. Wards. People think it's an act of revenge, but it's really an act of restoration. You're not doing it to make him jealous. You're doing it to make yourself whole. But let me tell you, it will make him crazy. Wards. Because a man knows when your energy pulls away. He can feel when you no longer orbit around his approval. It's like the moment you take your power back, he feels powerless. Because all that time, Wards, he thought he was the sun and you were revolving around him. Then suddenly, boom, you become your own galaxy, shining without permission, glowing without validation. That's when he starts showing up again. Wards, liking your posts, sending those "a stranger" messages, trying to test the waters to see if the old you still lives there. But you don't bite. Wards. Because the old you died the moment you realized your peace is more beautiful than his presence. You don't block him. You don't curse him out. You just detach. You let silence become your new language. Wards. And distance become your new boundary. You let your growth speak for itself. The calm you carry now, that's the biggest revenge. You don't argue with people you outgrew. You just smile, wish them well. Wards, and keep walking. Detachment makes you magnetic because nothing is more attractive than a woman who doesn't need validation to feel valuable. When you detach, Wards, you shift your focus from why did he ignore me to why did I ignore myself for so long? You stop asking, does he miss me? And start realizing rewards. I miss myself more than he ever could. You start dressing up for you, talking sweet to you, treating yourself like the queen you kept trying to prove you were to someone who couldn't even handle royalty. Wards. The world begins to open up again. The colors come back. The music hits different. The mirror starts to feel like home. And trust me, that's when he notices. Wards. That's when the one who overlooked you starts looking again, starts remembering what he had, starts wishing he hadn't played himself. Wards. Because nothing drives a man crazier than realizing the woman who once begged for his love is now too healed to care. You can't teach that kind of peace. You can only earn it through the fire. Wards. Through the nights you cried alone, through the mornings you still showed up with swollen eyes but unbroken spirit. Detachment ain't easy, but it's necessary. It's like surgery, painful but life-saving. You cut out the infection of codependency and start to heal from the inside out. And let's talk truth for a second, because some of y'all confuse silence with weakness, but baby, silence is power. Words. When you stop explaining, stop defending, stop reminding him of what he lost, you give him nothing to feed off. You remove the supply of your energy, and now he's starving for your attention. Words. Every man who ever took you for granted will eventually circle back when you detach, but by the time he does, you'll be too busy living, laughing, and loving yourself to even notice. Words. That's the beauty of the glow up that detachment brings. You're bitter, you're better. You don't chase closure, you create it. You don't seek revenge, you rise. You don't demand respect. Words, you embody it. You become untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because you learn to feel without falling apart. Your emotions no longer control you, you control them. Words. Your silence becomes your strength, your peace becomes your power, your distance becomes your dignity. And that drives him crazy because he can't manipulate what no longer reacts. Words. The woman who detaches becomes unforgettable, not because she plays games, but because she finally stops playing herself. She's soft, but she's solid, kind, but she's clear, loving. Words, but she's not desperate. She knows her value and she moves like it. Every word she speaks carries weight. Every move she makes radiates confidence. Every smile she gives feels earned. Words. Men respect what they can't control, and the moment you detach, you become a mystery again. He starts replaying memories, analyzing moments, trying to figure out when he lost you. Words, not realizing you were never his to lose. You were just his lesson. Detachment turns heartbreak into graduation. You don't drop out of love, you level up from illusion. Words. You learn that real love won't require you to lose yourself to keep it. So you walk different, talk different, glow different, because you're not begging to be chosen anymore. You already chose yourself. Words. That's the quiet beauty of detachment. It's when you stop proving and start preserving. It's when you stop needing someone to complete you because you realize you were whole all along. Words. It's when you stop letting fear of losing him make you forget your own worth. You stop fighting battles that are beneath your peace. You stop replaying old conversations hoping for a different ending. Words. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that can't contain your light. You just let go gracefully, peacefully, powerfully. And in that release, you become untouchable. Every person who doubted you rewards, ignored you, or thought you'd fall apart without them will eventually watch you rise higher than ever before. You're not showing off, you're showing up for yourself. You're not playing hard to get. Words. You just learn to be hard to forget. Detachment makes you dangerous in the best way, because now you can love without losing yourself, you can give without begging, and you can walk away without breaking. So when he ignores you, don't chase, detach. When he withdraws, don't panic, pull back too. When he goes silent, don't fill the space, let the silence echo your strength. Words. That's how you teach someone to value your presence, by letting them feel your absence. Detachment isn't a game, it's growth, it's maturity. Words. It's the art of mastering your emotions while keeping your peace. And baby, when you master that art, there ain't a man alive who won't notice your glow, your grace, your gravity. Words. Because while he's out there wondering why you stopped caring, you're out here learning what it feels like to finally be free. Silence and distance are not revenge, they are revelations. They are the quiet language of power, the unspoken truth that shakes a man's soul when he realizes that the woman he once took for granted no longer seeks his validation, no longer needs his reassurance. Words. And no longer waits for his attention. It's the moment the noise stops, the calls fade, the texts go unanswered, and he is left alone with the echo of his own choices. Words. Wondering how something so steady slipped through his fingers without a single fight, without a single word, and that's when the truth hits him, not because you screamed or begged. Words, but because your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did, because distance, when it comes from self-respect, carries a kind of weight no argument ever could. Words. And it's that silence that makes him replay every memory, every mistake, every careless moment when he thought you'd never walk away. But now you've done the one thing he never believed you would. Words. You've let go, and that's the loudest statement you could ever make, the kind that makes him rethink everything he thought he knew about you and about love itself. Because silence is not weakness, words. It's wisdom. It's knowing that your energy is too precious to waste on proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it when it was right in front of them, words. It's realizing that peace is more valuable than attention, that your time is a luxury not everyone can afford, and that emotional distance doesn't mean you've stopped caring, words. It means you've started caring about yourself more. It's not coldness, it's clarity, it's not pride, it's protection, it's not punishment, it's preservation. Because when a woman detaches, rewards. She doesn't just walk away, she rises, she transforms, she reclaims her energy from every moment that drained her and puts it back into herself. She takes that silence and fills it with healing, with laughter, words, with goals, with growth. And suddenly the energy shifts because now the man who ignored her attention begins to crave it. The man who overlooked her effort begins to remember it. Words, the man who once took her comfort for granted begins to feel the discomfort of her absence. And that's the irony of distance. The more you pull away, the more he feels the pull. The more you stop reaching out, wards, the more he starts to reach in, because detachment creates a vacuum, and in that vacuum, he starts to miss the warmth, the softness, the connection that he thought would always be there, wards. But now he sees what silence can do. It's not just the lack of words, it's the presence of power. It's the declaration that you will no longer participate in your own heartbreak, wards. It's the courage to walk away from confusion and walk toward peace. Because when a woman stops chasing, the entire dynamic changes. Suddenly he's the one wondering, he's the one overthinking, wards. He's the one checking his phone and scrolling through old pictures. He's the one asking himself why you're not reacting anymore, why you're so calm, why you're glowing in your peace, wards. And that's when it dawns on him. That's when he realizes that silence isn't emptiness, it's control. It's you taking your power back. It's you showing that love should never mean losing yourself, wards. Because when you love from fullness, not from fear, you become magnetic, not because you're chasing, but because you've learned the art of standing still in your worth, wards. Your distance teaches more than your words ever could. It teaches that a woman's love is a gift, not a guarantee, that her attention is sacred, not something to be wasted on uncertainty, wards. And that when she decides to pull her energy back, she's not trying to hurt him, she's healing herself, she's closing the doors that lead to chaos and opening the ones that lead to peace, wards. And as you sit in that stillness, as you stop explaining yourself, you begin to realize how beautiful it feels to no longer beg for what should be freely given, how liberating it is to stop performing for love, rewards. How powerful it is to say nothing and let your silence do the talking, because silence exposes truth. It reveals who shows up when you stop making all the effort, wards. It shows who cares when you stop reminding them to. It uncovers who sees your value without you having to scream for it. And that's where your strength is found, not in reaction, but in restraint, wards. Not in chasing, but in choosing, not in proving, but in preserving. Because when you stop running after what doesn't align with you, you make space for what truly does, wards. You begin to attract energy that matches your peace. You start to see that love doesn't demand your dignity. That true connection doesn't require you to shrink, rewards. That the right person will never make you question your worth. And in that silence, you rediscover yourself, your laughter, your light, your joy, your softness, wards. The parts of you that got buried under all the noise of trying too hard. And suddenly, you don't need closure from him anymore because you found closure within. You don't need him to come back. Rewards. Because you've already come back to yourself, and that's the real power of silence and distance. Not revenge, not manipulation, but revelation, the kind that changes how you see everything. Wards, the kind that reminds you that peace is the most attractive thing a woman can wear, that stillness is magnetic, that self-respect is irresistible, and that when you walk away with grace instead of bitterness, wards, with silence instead of chaos, you leave behind an energy that lingers long after you're gone, an energy he won't be able to forget, because it wasn't your words that changed him, it was your absence, wards. It wasn't your anger that shook him. It was your calm. It wasn't your goodbye that broke him. It was realizing he'll never have access to your peace again. And that right there is the ultimate lesson, words. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Sometimes the loudest statement you can make is silence. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply rising above what tried to break you. Words. Walking away not to prove a point, but because you finally understand your worth, because you've learned that love without respect is just noise, and you've decided to live in peace, not in pain, in truth. Words. Not in tension, in value, not in validation. And that's when you realize silence and distance were never the end of the story. They were the beginning of your becoming. Words, they were the moment you stopped waiting to be chosen and finally chose yourself. Detachment is not about walking away in anger. It's about walking back to your peace. It's not about ignoring someone. Words. It's about choosing yourself over confusion. It's not the absence of love. It's the presence of self-respect. It's the sacred act of reclaiming your energy from the places it was never valued. Words. From the people who only understood your worth once your silence became louder than your effort. It's the quiet decision that says, I no longer need to prove my importance to anyone who treats me like an option. Wars, it's when you realize that the version of you that kept trying, over-explaining, giving endless chances, and begging to be seen deserves rest, not rejection, peace, not pain, understanding, not excuses. Words. And as you step into detachment, something shifts within you, a softness returns, a calm confidence rises, you stop chasing closure and start creating it. Words. You stop waiting for them to change and start transforming yourself, because detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally understand the power of not forcing what's not meant for you. Words. It's knowing that love should flow freely, not be pulled with resistance. It's learning that people's behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but of their awareness. Rewards. And you cannot teach someone to value what they don't recognize. You can only choose to stop devaluing yourself by staying where you're unseen, because when you detach, you stop negotiating your peace. Words. You stop giving discounts on your value. You stop confusing attachment with connection. And you start realizing that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and them is to let go. Words. To step back and allow life to reveal what was always true. Because when you no longer chase, the truth starts to chase you. When you stop begging for effort, you start seeing who was never willing to give it. Words. When you stop talking, you start hearing the silence that tells you everything words could not. And that silence becomes your teacher, your strength, your mirror. Because detachment doesn't close your heart. Words, it clears it. It removes the noise, the chaos, the what ifs, and the emotional clutter. It leaves space for peace, for clarity, for healing. It gives you back the power you gave away through overthinking. Words. Through hoping, through trying to convince someone to choose you. And that's when you understand that peace is not found in control. It's found in surrender, not in holding on tighter, but in learning to release gracefully. Because love that demands your anxiety is not love. Love that drains your joy is not love. Love that confuses your worth is not love. And the moment you detach, words, you begin to see that. You begin to see how you were shrinking to fit places you were meant to outgrow. How you were pouring from an empty cup just to keep someone else comfortable. Words. How you were making excuses for energy that was inconsistent. And once that awareness awakens in you, there's no going back. Rewards. Because detachment opens your eyes to everything you were ignoring when you were emotionally entangled. It's the moment your vision clears and you see that love shouldn't require you to lose yourself. Words, that being chosen by someone else means nothing if you've abandoned yourself in the process. And so you start to rebuild piece by piece, day by day. Words. You pour all that love you once gave away back into your own spirit. You start showing up for yourself the way you used to show up for them. And that's when the glow begins, not just the outer glow, words, but the deep internal one, the kind that radiates peace, the kind that makes people wonder what changed. Is nothing outside changed. You just stopped giving your power away. Words, you stopped letting other people's actions decide your worth. You stopped measuring love through struggle and started defining it through peace. And as you rise into that awareness, you notice something else. Wards. People start reacting differently. The same person who once ignored you starts noticing you. The one who took you for granted starts to miss you. Wards. The one who thought you'd always be available starts to feel your absence like a storm, but you're no longer the same because detachment transforms you from within. Wards. It makes you see that the power was never in getting them back. It was in getting yourself back. It was in realizing that the same silence that made them uncomfortable made you powerful, because now you're not moved by the same things. You no longer react to inconsistency. You no longer chase half effort. You no longer wait for words that never match actions. You observe, you discern. Wards. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You realize that not everyone deserves access to your heart, your time, your energy. Wards. And that detachment is the filter that separates what's real from what's convenient, what's genuine from what's temporary. And that realization sets you free from needing validation. Wards. Free from trying to be understood, free from the anxiety of wondering where you stand, because when you detach, you no longer stand in confusion, you stand in clarity. And that clarity becomes your superpower. Wards. It keeps you grounded when emotions try to shake you. It keeps you centered when others test your peace. It reminds you that love should add calm, not chaos. Wards. And that true connection never requires you to beg for attention, because the truth is detachment is not distance. It's discernment. It's seeing things as they are, not as your emotions wish them to be. Wards. It's knowing when to stay and when to walk away. It's trusting that letting go will never make you lose what's meant for you. And as you continue on this path, wards, you start to see that everything you once thought you needed from others was already within you. The love, the validation, the peace, the security, it was all waiting for you to stop chasing and start listening. Wards. And in that stillness, you discover the strength that was always yours. The strength to not react, to not over-explain, to not fight for space in someone's life. Wards. Because you finally understand that if you have to fight for a place, it's not truly yours. Wards. And your detachment becomes your declaration that you are no longer willing to sacrifice your peace for temporary validation. You are no longer willing to bleed for someone who wouldn't even bandage your wounds. Wards. You are no longer willing to water relationships that leave you thirsty. And that quiet power, that gentle strength, that unshakable calm, that's what drives them crazy. Wards. Because they can't access your energy anymore. They can't manipulate your emotions. They can't predict your reactions, because you've outgrown the game. And there's nothing more powerful, more confusing. Wards. More magnetic than a person who is fully at peace, fully in control, fully detached from needing anyone to complete them. And that's when they start to chase, not because you force them to. Wards, but because they feel the shift. They feel the loss of your emotional presence. They feel the void your peace created. But by then, you've learned something deeper, that you don't detach to make them chase. Wards. You detach to make yourself free, because freedom from emotional dependence is the highest form of love. It's love without attachment. Care without control, connection without confusion. Wards. It's peace that doesn't require performance, and that's the kind of love that starts within you. The kind that doesn't fade when people leave, the kind that doesn't crumble when situations change. Wards. The kind that keeps you grounded in storms and glowing in silence. And once you've tasted that peace, nothing and no one can pull you back into chaos again, because detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. Wards. It's not apathy, it's awareness. It's not indifference, it's inner balance. And from that place, you stop trying to be understood and start enjoying being misunderstood. Wards. You stop fearing loss and start celebrating growth, because you've learned that everything you lose while finding peace was never meant to stay. Wards. And everything that's truly meant for you will meet you in peace, not pain, not confusion, not chaos, but peace. And so you continue quietly, gracefully detached, but not disconnected. Wards. Loving, but not losing yourself. Present, but not possessed. And in that space, you find everything you were always looking for, not in them, but in you.